Alright, my name is Metro, and today we're going to wrap up the Pokemon Aegis Sunlit Lands preview. Alright, we did a full 10 episode, well, full quote unquote. I played through almost all of the game. There was a lot of issues, and now I'm just going to conclude, give my final thoughts on what I played as the preview, and whether or not it's worth, going forward with, playing it from right now, etc. So I have this list of Pokemon criteria that I used for a previous video, and we're just going to go through them step by step here as well. Okay. First criteria I'd like to talk about is Pokemon list and availability. Pokemon in this game are pretty limited. It seems like a lot of the areas in the main area, the main town, main city, contain the exact same Pokemon. There was a few rare ones here and there, but in general, I was pretty disappointed with this. In fact, it was part of the main first complaint I had, that I just couldn't mix and match. There was a couple reasons why of this, but in general, but the game you're so quick. Like you basically get 2 badges. Like if this was a regular game, you would only be through 2 badges. So I can't really fault them for that. So I'm satisfied. It's good enough, but it definitely could be more boisterous, more diverse. Music is another criteria I have, but I don't think he used any original music. Reborn Amethyst, creator of Reborn, basically just borrowed a lot of tracks from Glitch City, a famous like Poke YouTuber. She's like just does music and stuff like that, Pokemon related. So I don't think there's anything to really talk about there. Next is sprites and tiles. Once again, I think a lot of it was borrowed from Reborn, as this is basically like a prequel. I used a lot of the same assets. So do most games that are of the centric mindset, but there was a few custom sprites I noticed, and they weren't very good. To be completely frank, like I'm just telling it as it is. There's like a mega evolution of Scyther in the final battle of the episode I played through, and it's super small. It doesn't even fit on the screen properly, so I don't know if that's just a bug or scaling or how it works, but in the tiles, some of them I guess were different, more unique. In general, there's nothing to write home about. It wasn't great, but I will say that the main city that you start in, Aegis, I believe it's called, Oshawott Square especially, was very, very well structured. The tiles weren't anything spectacular, but it looked great, and it was definitely one of my favorite parts, probably visually, of the entire game. Right, the difficulty, if you guys aren't aware, the difficulty of the game comes that the battle style that you normally play with is not an option. You only can play at the style where you cannot actually switch out Pokemon in between when they switch out. It's just like if you were the trainer, right? That's what the creator of the game says. He's trying to make it more balanced, which is fine. I guess it's fine, but I just don't really like it. I feel like it adds difficulty to a game that's already quite difficult. Basically, if it was just this, like there's Pokemon games with just this as the difficulty, that's fine. But then there's also a level cap, an extreme level cap at that, and a bug with the level cap that prevented me from actually leveling up Pokemon towards the cap with them obeying. Like they would stop obeying at 25 when the cap was 35. So, but I will say about the cap that the hard cap where they can't actually gain experience past level 20 or whatever it is at the time. That is great. That's a really, really strong point there. And that goes right into the next point, grinding and leveling options. Leveling was no issue whatsoever. In fact, there's an EV training center, which clearly is the strongest point of the game, in my opinion. This is a major step forward, and if you're going to make a difficult game, you definitely need options for EV training, because effort value, that is, of course, not the Pokemon EV. But yeah, the effort value training center was huge, and just the varying level of Pokemon throughout the game, levels made it very easy to level and train Pokemon. But yeah, unfortunately the caps were so limited. Like level 20 was the cap for half the game, and then 35 was the cap, and they didn't obey. So it kind of never really came to fruition for me. Next criteria is length of time versus effort. I can't even say anything about this because the game was so unfinished that I spent like 5 hours on some areas that it would have probably taken me a half hour if it was actually done. So I really don't. I mean, I'm commenting on what I played. It's unfortunate that that's how it was, but I shouldn't say this as it's like a final thing, because you do level so quick because everything's double battles. Like so much of it is double battles that most of the time I spent was just figuring out things that weren't explained or done well. Puzzles, once again, it was basically only one real puzzle in the entire game, and it just, I don't know, it wasn't, I just didn't like it. I don't like these jumping puzzles. I don't like these like back and forth through area puzzles that aren't actually like, let's sit and think about it and figure it out puzzles, you know. So I would say that was not, I was not impressed with that. Story, I was impressed with for sure. The story was very good. If you're not aware, it is a prequel to Reborn. Basically, the characters, the black protagonists in Reborn are mirrored in this game and used basically as like a few months before they leave on their journey. I can't see how, like, the two don't seem like they would link up, but that is the intention. And in fact, the first half of the game story was great. In fact, one of the strongest scenes in any Pokemon game I've ever played came through this game when your father's being captured and tortured. And he seems like a pretty important character. You know, you don't usually have a father in Pokemon, and he does die. He gets killed, actually. He gets murdered. And you know, your whole family grieves him, and it's pretty interesting. And then you find out that there's some connection with, you know, his mother, your grandmother. So yeah, that was a very, 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 very strong point for sure. Replayability is another criteria I have, and I just can't even say anything about it because the game was so, it was so buggy that I barely could play through it once. In fact, I wouldn't even say I did play through it once. It was just that bad. You know, yeah, it's just not really done. Like, that's the big issue. Evil team. And characters in general like that, I just didn't really understand. I felt like there was too many characters, a lot like some games do this. Pokemon Rejuvenation did this. There's just too many characters. It's really hard to follow, and I feel like they all have a pre-existing connection, which I just don't understand, to be honest. So I would say not very good on that. Trainer and random battle density. In the beginning, there was way too many trainers, I would say. In fact, right out of the gate, you could actually lose. You could wipe out before you even get to a Pokemon Center, which isn't really a big deal. But I would say random battle density went from like 0 to really, really high, and then back to 0 again. But I think that was a bug. Like, the ending of the game didn't actually have random battles because he didn't tile it right or something. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, so I don't know. That's probably not relevant. Player characters' impact on the story seemed pretty good. Once again, I really did like the story and the family, you know, surrounding the player character. So I would say that's 10 out of 10 right there. That's very good. And capacity for basic cheating is another criteria I mentioned in these games because, you know, I don't really feel like playing these games for fucking months, you know. I would say this game had, it's kind of like two sides. I do like games that offer you rare candies. And I played through this entire game and only ever found one rare candy, which, you know, isn't really that big of a deal. Like, there's other ways to level besides just rare candy farming. But the biggest issue, or well, biggest positive that I got out of this was the EV training. If you're not aware, you can just use Cheat Engine to figure out what value the EV stat is that you're trying to increase. So you battle 3 Weedles, or whatever, they give speed or something like that, right? You get battle 3 of them, locate the hex code, and then you just increase it from whatever it is to 500, whatever the max is, you know. And then you have max EV. It takes like 5 minutes. So that was definitely the best part of that game from a Cheat Engine point of view. Convenience and travel, just not really relevant. The world was so small and it was so unfinished that I can't even say. And then innovations. I would definitely say that the EV training center is a major innovation and definitely one of the best elements, not only of this game, but probably any fan game I played. So Crash Team Alfing is the guy's name. Forum thread's been in every description for this whole series, but you should definitely drop by if you like the game a little bit. I would definitely try to encourage him to do it. If I was to give feedback, one line of feedback right now, I would say, you got a lot of work to do, buddy. You did a good job. The story is very interesting, very unique. Some very powerful moments. Well made in general story, but the execution around the story is just, yeah, it's just second rate, unfortunately, right now. And, you know, nothing personal, but it was a real grind to get through it. The only reason I even continued to go was because I wanted to make a succinct playthrough and give a good conclusion. And even when I tried my hardest, I still couldn't actually finish the game because there was some strange bug that happened. Like, I just made a choice and it was available to me when it shouldn't have been, and it ruined the game. So yeah, good start, man. You got some good ideas. if you keep rocking, you put some time in, this could be big. But you know, he's playing it, he's doing it at a casual level, so you got to respect that. You know, everybody's got their own stuff going on. So yeah, I would definitely recommend you guys checking it out, especially following it if it if it progresses, if he does a lot more. But as of right now, it's just not really going to be fun for you guys because the ending is so buggy and it's just not really finished at all. So that's my conclusion on Pokemon Aegis. If you guys have any suggestions on what I should play next, I'd like to do another preview, at least one more, before the next episode of Pokemon Reborn comes out. So